Hello everyone and welcome back to another Figurehead Reviews video, and today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends Silver Surfer, the Walgreens exclusive from some time ago. But here we have the Surfer in the front window with all of his accessories including his surfboard, and then down at the bottom we get the Silver Surfer logo. On the side we get some pretty cool artwork there of the Surfer, arms up, just kind of riding the cosmic waves so to speak, and that is going to be the same artwork on both sides. On the back, we get a full body product shot that takes up almost the entire back of the box. And then we do have a read-up, a metallic skinned humanoid from the planet Zenla. The Silver Surfer gets his name from the shimmering appearance and iconic hovering surfboard. And there's really not much to show you for the UPC code. I mean, there is, but unfortunately, this is no longer available at Walgreens. If you didn't get one when it was out, you're going to have to hit the secondary markets to find one. But enough about that. Let's get this open and take a look at the Silver Surfer. And here is the Silver Surfer outside of his packaging, and this is probably one of the most difficult figures that I've had to shoot for my review style with the white backdrop and whatnot here. I'm going to invest in a black backdrop so that way when I review figures like this, it'll look a lot better for you guys. But anyway, this figure is awesome. Actually, I really like it. I mean, of course, it's basic in terms of like the paint and things like that. But of course, getting a Silver Surfer figure was something that the fans wanted for sure. And I must confess, I have actually had this figure for some time. I still had the box so that way I could actually shoot that intro for you guys. But this figure is unfortunately long gone from Walgreens, and you're more than likely going to have to find it on the secondary markets at this point. But it does come with some pretty cool accessories, aside from, of course, the surfboard, which I do want to look at when we do the closer looks. It'll just be easier to do it that way. He does come with a couple of sets of alternate hands, starting first with a pair of fisted hands. And then we have a pair of open gesture hands. And finally, we get these flat high-fiving surfer hands or flying hands that they're most typically used for. And then we do get the bubble effects for the representation of the Power Cosmic. However, I'm not a fan of these. They're very loose. At least the ones that I have in the box are very loose. I could probably heat them up and maybe try to get them to work. But I'm not really a big fan of using these effects, or at least these bubble effects. I just don't really care for them that much. Now, when standing straight up, the Silver Surfer is coming in at 6¼ inches tall, which makes him 15.9 centimeters. So he's not an overly big figure. In fact, this body mold, if I'm not mistaken, is the Spider-Man 2099, the white suit version. So it is a widely used body mold that we've seen. That's about the average height for that mold. So he is a good-looking figure. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to take a look at the board and then get a better look here at the Silver Surfer. And taking a look first at the surfboard, we can see it's pretty basic. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It is quite long, so it measures about 7¼ inches tall, or long rather, so it's going to be taller than the Surfer, which is a good thing. And there's really no sculpt work to it other than these lines going through it. We do get the rounded front end and then a slightly rounded back end, but you can tell which end is the front and the back. And then we do get the single port here, or peg here, which is a blessing in disguise. Some people might say it's hard to stand him up with one peg. However, having two pegs means he was going to always be in the same stance for everybody. Only having the one peg means you can still secure it and do your own thing. However, the most egregious thing that Hasbro did with this board is they didn't give you any way to have him flying with it. It's just going to sit flat on the ground, and then you're going to have Surfer standing on it. And that is just a terrible way to display it. So I had gone to Can of Beams, that's with an M, Beam, and got, boy, you can't even see it, can you? Got this peg stand here, or the stand that goes onto it. I had some wax on here, and I'll explain that in a moment. That's like the Baby Bell cheese or whatever it's called. I'll explain that. But the way this stand works is I have the wax on the other side too, but it has these little lips there that go around the front, and then it grabs it on the side, and once you get it in place, and he doesn't actually in his video talk about using wax on it. It just was a lot easier for me, and I figured since I probably won't be seeing the bottom of the board, that'll work. So wax is holding this piece in place, but the grips, yeah, see, actually, maybe that's why I had done it. I actually did this a while ago, but maybe that's what it was, is these side grips weren't really holding on to it. Anyway, using my stands that I have, which these are cheap Ali Express stands, pay like $2 for them, but you can port it in to one of the holes down there, and then you have a stand, which you saw in one of the 360 shots there. I used that. So that, to me, is a must-have. So I'll leave a link down to the Can of Beams website. If he has them in stock and you have this figure, order this piece. It will make it so much better. But enough about the stand there and the board. Let's take a look at the Surfer itself. So pretty cool looking head sculpt. Not a whole lot to it. The paint actually came out good, which is super important on a figure like this, because that paint with such a contrast would look terrible if it was bad. Like, you would really notice it. So I'm happy that it came out pretty good. But otherwise, it's just a bald man head sculpt. You can see the flashing, which is a bit annoying here. So the flashing around the head, that is a little bit of a bummer. But looking at the rest of the figure, I mean, it is really shiny. They did a great job. I mean, some people I've seen actually added like a more chrome look to it, but it's not like this is a gray. I mean, this is quite silver looking. And in fact, I was having a hard time trying to figure out what is painted and what is cast in this color. When looking at it, it almost feels like you can see the gray underneath. And like when you take the head off, though, oh, where was it? I felt like there was some gray somewhere. Maybe it was one of these hinges. Yeah, I think that hinge, you can see some gray. But, I mean, it feels like there's a fair amount of paint in some spots. You know, looking at, like, on the forearm, it kind of looks like it's sort of globbed on there. So, I mean, I guess that could be something with the mold, but I feel like that would be paint. But either way, still a really cool looking figure. And I'd mentioned that I'm pretty sure this uses the Spider-Man 2099 mold. And looking at it, I'm almost positive that's what it is. So it is really awesome looking. And I know it is hard to see because it's so overexposed with my setup, but it's still really cool looking. And I just wish there was more to show off with them. I mean, it's pretty standard looking, and there's not a whole lot of paint to go over. Now, looking at the articulation, though, you do have a head that can go all the way around. You actually get really good range. Like, that's not even moving the hinge. That's the ball joint itself. So you get a little bit of side to side and just wandering around and whatnot. So that's kind of cool. He can look up a pretty fair amount, look down a pretty fair amount. His arms do go up to about 90 degrees. You have butterfly joints with further range backwards than forwards, but it's still nice to have those butterfly joints on this figure. You do have full rotation at the shoulder, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. You do get rotation and a hinge on all of the hands. He has a pretty decent ab crunch there, forward and backwards. You do have waist rotation. You have legs that don't come apart too far. You can kick forward pretty decently there. As a upper thigh cut, double jointed knees. Oddly enough, he has a boot cut. Then he does have a hinge and ankle pivot. And I say oddly enough, but I mean, it's part of the mold, but it would be kind of weird for him to turn his calf like that. And that about does it for this review, everyone. I feel like I spent more time talking about the board and the stand that I have for it, but there's really not a lot to look at with the figure. I mean, it's a big silver figure. It looks good, and we went over the paint and stuff that's on it, so it felt like a weird review, kind of not really spending a whole lot of time on the actual figure. But anyway, as you can see, having it on this display so that you can get some more dynamic posing with the surfboard actually up in the air at angles, whether it be angled down, up, to the side, whatever, you can see why having that is really just a must-have in terms of displaying this figure. Being able to have them up in the air, you got to have it. So again, that is Can of Beams. I have the link in the description. Check it out. See if you can get it. You'll see, I forget what it's called, but I mean, there's only a couple of flight stands that he has, so you'll be able to see those. But anyway, my final thoughts on this figure are it's great. I mean, while it's very basic in terms of, like I said, it's a big silver figure, I do really like it. And of course, it's an iconic figure. I mean, or a character. You have to have Silver Surfer. I just need a Galactus now. I don't have the Build-A-Figure, so not having Galactus is something that really bugs me, actually, about my Fantastic Four, my Cosmic setup. But anyway, if you can find this for a good price, I was actually curious, looked on eBay. Looks like about $40 is the going rate right now for sold listings. It's not terrible, but if you can get your hands on him for a decent price, I think he is a good addition to the collection, especially the Cosmic Collection. So, I mean, it's worth picking up if you can get him. But anyway, as I said, that is it for the review. If you like this review, make sure to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe for more content just like this. And as always, thanks for watching my videos, and have a great day.